If y'all would send a friend request to us, because we actually put some information on there about local events that are happening and whether or not we need students to help us out, and that kind of helps in your volunteer hours and things like that. So that's why you have that. It has nothing to do with BEST, but in order for me to be here, my boss wants me to be able to get that information out. So it's kind of like, you know, that branding that we do, and we start doing that marketing. So eventually I may come to some of you guys and say, hey, we need a website, because that's what one of our next things on the agenda. What we're going to do is we're just going to kind of go through. I'm Melanie. You don't have to call me Miss Dickens or anything like that. I know some of you do, because that's our judge, or hey judge, or crazy lady, whatever it's going to be. If you did not get some of the papers we're going over, if you have a team, like if there's 10 of you from Creekside in here and 5 of you from Wilson, at the end, if there's some, you know, left over, please feel free to grab them, but we're kind of getting a little bit low on some of them. Let's see, who is representing tonight? What schools have we got?
Red Bay.
Red Bay. Red Bay, first year. This is a new team. Y'all help them. Meek High School, new team. Y'all help them. Brooks, okay. Wilson, Creekside Academy. Lexington, long way, huh? All right. Anybody else? No? No other teams? You're all like, no? Okay. All right, so you know the new teams in here. So some of you are going to be like overwhelmed tonight. You're going to leave here and say, oh, we can't do this. I can't believe we've got into this. Don't worry about it, okay? I'm glad to see that we had a heavier number in actual marketing this year, because our marketing points are worth a bundle, okay? So I know a lot of people want the engineering notebook, and that's very important, but if you can't sell what you're trying to sell, then you're not going to make any money, or you're not going to make any profit. So that's one of the things. We're going to talk about the due dates. All of you should have a sheet that says the due dates. We're doing things a little bit different this year, and the reason why is because all of our best volunteers are made up of judges that work other professional jobs and volunteers. So we have to get as many people as we can to help. And when we started having marketing presentations 2 and 3 and 4 times in a row, we ended up having less and less people that could come at those times, okay? Monday, September 14th, by email, submitted by your students, is the Teacher Leadership Award. Okay, that piece of paper looks like this right here. This is going to be something y'all are going to decide. This is something new for the teacher leadership. You're going to tell us why your best robotics teacher or sponsor should get this award, okay, in 1,000 words or less. I know some of you are going to say, what do we get marked off for? What happens? I'm going to teach you what you need to know. I'm going to teach the test, okay? You know those wonderful tests that the teacher says, this is an open book test, and you open it up and all the answers are right there in front of you. You would be amazed at how many people still get those answers wrong. It is scary. If number 1 says, make sure all your links on your website work, then what should you do?
Make sure all your links.
Right. Sounds pretty simple. But you'd be amazed when you get, this is crunch time. You're going to have about 6 weeks to do all of this. And when you're doing all of this, all of a sudden, that expression, you can't see the forest for the trees, it happens. I mean, I did that today. I did that in my professional business. I replied all to something that shouldn't have been replied all to, and everybody that didn't need that information got that information today. So even as an adult, I do stupid stuff still. So it was one of those things. I was in a hurry to come here. I needed to reply, but I needed to reply to that person and reply to all. And so, of course, I can't wait for work tomorrow. But so that's what you're going to have to do. So this due date, circle it, September 14th. Okay, you're going to have to make sure that is due. Let's see. Saturday 26th at Mall Day. You need to make sure that Stephanie knows that you have your intent to compete. Okay, and your time preference. And the reason why she does those time preferences, sometimes she can kind of tweak them a little bit, but it's so that you've got the floor a little bit more, because you don't want to be standing around. Now, a lot of times when you're standing around talking to each other, people do start building, bonds and friendships across teams. It's not that whole, I can't speak to you because you're with such and such team. BEST actually works together to collaborate with each other, because there are some times that you have to work from one resource department to another resource department when you're in your real job. So those are things that you can't say, I'm only going to stay with Wilson's group, or I'm only going to stay with Creekside, because when you start putting those barriers up, you don't know when you're going to need them as well as they're going to need you, okay? So remember that, and we have spirit and sportsmanship points that have made a difference. Those few points have made a difference between whether or not someone has won this particular award or that particular award. So keep that in mind. October 6th by 5 p.m., the engineering notebook. Now, I know everybody's happy when the engineering notebook and the CAD drawings and everything is out of the way. The teamwear submission, your demographics, let us know who makes up your team. And these are things that are teamwear, your sample. That's going to be something a little bit different this year. Is we are asking you, when you turn it in, all of this is going to be turned in on October 6th by 5 p.m. So that is unusual for us, because usually we have 2 or 3 separate deadlines. We had some feedback from judges and people that were actually participants saying, hey, we'd rather it all be done. That way you can kind of concentrate on practicing or doing your speeches or anything like that, okay? Your creative video, your spirit and sportsman bank points. Now those are going to be with like Red Bay and Meek. That's going to be somebody helps you out for some reason. Somebody answers your email. Somebody does something like that. And they're going to do the same thing back to you. You may help them, because even though you're a new team, you can be just as helpful as a team that's a seasoned team. Mascot, costumes, and then of course your lunch and order. And some of you, of course, we're going to be doing the tailgating again, so most of you might not be ordering food from that, but from the concession stand. Some of you are going to be grilling out your own stuff. On Saturday, October 10th, you need to have the driver's list and your spirit and sportsman ballot. Okay, it's going to be in the pit pack. Any questions so far? I know y'all been in school all day, so you just like, look, I'm hungry, or not hungry anymore, but I'm sleepy and all that good stuff. So please interrupt me if I end up just going rambling off or anything like that. Say, hey, what about this? What about that? Keeps me awake too. Okay. Which one? One of those sheets. There's like 40, 55 sheets. Which sheet? I'm kidding. The due dates, any of the other ones are up here, so just help yourselves. And y'all, yeah, I know I embarrass you, so I don't mean it personally. I do it to everybody, self included. All right. This was the one that we were running a little bit low on, so you may or may not have this one. This is the draft. Okay, this is the draft of the judging awards and policies. This is going to let you know. This is why I am always of course, I'm the one that does the training with the marketing presentation, but the marketing presentation itself is 25 points. Okay, 25 points. Team exhibit and interviews. That's when we're going to come around to your booths on the tailgating day. Those are worth 20 points. Spirit and sportsmanship, 10 points. Your robot performance is 15 points, and your project engineering notebook is the most at 30 points. Now keep in mind, your robot may work fantastic until the day of competition, okay? And he may end up just jumping off of something and completely kaput. But you can still go to South's Best based on your other points in these other categories. So you may be saying, don't let any of your teams, and you're supposed to work together and everything else, but don't let one person's think the website's more important or the engineering notebook's more important, or because it's all together accumulative points. Okay, so just remember that you are part of the team. I always tell everybody, I stress that there should be some type of, the teams that work the best are the teams that have some kind of team meetings. And those team meetings may be where the people in charge of the notebook or the people in charge of the robots, the technical side of it, are actually teaching one of those meetings or talking about one of those meetings. The marketing people are informing the other ones about those meetings. Okay, so you need to know what everybody's going to ask, because when we get down to the marketing presentation, we're going to make sure we ask those questions to you. Okay, these are a little bit about your breakdown, your minutes. Of course, we have a lot of time tonight, so I know I want to get to some of the categories and then we just kind of discuss it from there. The marketing presentation, the guidelines, Now, this one we did last year actually worked really well. It was the first time we actually asked for you to bring all of your own equipment. And the reason why it worked well is we had too many problems with having it available on campus for you to have, or say you used one sort of software and you didn't have a jump drive for this, or you didn't have that. So by you bringing what you needed, it actually worked better for most teams, scored higher this year in that aspect. Okay? We're only going to have the following presentation available. We're going to have you a table for your equipment, your screen, and your power outlet. Okay? That's all you're going to have. Which team, I can't remember, somebody came in and had an extension cord. I can't remember which team it was, and that is the one thing that saved them, because what they had, the setup that they had, if they had not brought that extension cord, okay, if y'all's team had not brought that extension cord, you would have been kind of that kind of deal. So at least you backed up. I know at one time we had another team that everything went bonkers, their slide, everything, but their PowerPoint, they knew it so well without the paperwork and everything else. Yeah, that was y'all. Yeah, that you knew it so well that you just off the cuff, boom, boom, boom. And that's, a lot of times you can have an off the cuff marketing presentation is better than, good morning, well, I'm here to do the marketing presentation. Which sounds a little bit better. I mean, if I got up here and said, hey guys, how are y'all? Had a good day? Doing all right? You'd be a little bit bored eventually. And so keep in mind, we're human too. Some of us are a little bit more crazy than the others. You're going to have judges that come in that they look like they're big sourpusses, and they are. Okay? They are. Outside of the room, they are. So you're not going to be able to change that. That's just the way it is. We've all got maybe that grandpa figure or something that's just grumpy all the time, and he may be the sweetest person in the world, but he just looks grumpy. And so, and that may be what it is. And then you have someone who's more, smiling at you or kind of cheering you on a little bit because they have been in that experience, they've experienced being in front of somebody and saying, because it's hard. Sometimes I look at y'all and I know I've just completely lost you. You're zoning out somewhere. But it is difficult to talk to people, or you just thinking of the fight you had with your boyfriend or anything like that, or girlfriend or anything like that, okay? All right, you may bring laptops, speakers, projectors, all wires, cables, power cords, and extension cords that you need. Please don't bring Home Depot in, okay, or a Radio Shack or anything. But if it takes Radio Shack to get your marketing presentation done, fine, so be it. I'm going through these are just kind of the housekeeping aspects of it, and then we're going to get to the score sheets themselves. Internet access. We are not sure yet if it's going to be available. So if you've got your own little hotspot, that you carry with you, that worked out well for quite a few people. Some people wanted to actually have wireless outside in the tent, and we were scared about what would and wouldn't be covered. So that's something that that's going to be up to your decisions. Now, if closer to the event something happens, there's a contact information, Miss Cleveland, Janine Cleveland, and she'll let you know. But you're going to have to reset your items the way you found it. So you can't, once you have that and no adults in the room. I know we have to say that every year, but every year it's like we have to be bodyguards, and there is someone's parent or grandparent or aunt or uncle or whoever wants in that room with us. I'm not sure why, but they want in that room. But you cannot, whoever is out there, even the person who's doing the videography, they are actually and usually if I'm in a room where somebody's got a video going, I'm going to make sure that one of our judges at least asks a question, so it catches them off guard a little bit too. So, but some of them, I've seen some of you before in your presentations, and we're actually it's our goal sometimes to catch y'all doing something wrong, because we're like, these kids are getting too good. They're getting too good. They're going to get us our jobs. All right, the presentation, the team should check in at least 15 minutes prior to presentation time. Sometimes we tell people the way we did in the past, we said if you were a newer school, go in the front. It's not going to make a difference one way or the other if you're the first person to present versus the last person, because we're going to actually be here all day on that day. So Remember that. You have a total of 25 minutes. That's going to be your setup, your break, your presentation, your Q&A with the judges, and your breakdown. If you don't require anything but to just come in, put your jump drive in your boom, you're up, you can take the whole 20 minutes to tell us whatever you need to tell us. Now, don't just use, if you think, oh gosh, I would rather see a 15-minute perfected presentation, boom, and out of there, than I would for you to drag on thinking, oh, I got 25 more minutes, because say it, do it, sell it to me, we're good. And that's with most of the judges, because the judges go through the same training that you guys go through. We just don't put us all in the same room together, because we said the students are going to have different questions to ask than the adults are in most cases. We're finding judges from, like I said, professional, volunteers. They range from the youngest we've had is 18 to the oldest we've had is, I think he turned 80. Okay, so you're going to have to, when people say, what's your audience is a huge demographic of people, okay? So they're coming from all walks of life. So you're going to have to, so a joke, what might be funny on social media to us today in this classroom, the 80-year-old might not get it, okay? So if you're putting any kind of jokes or any kind of humor or anything, of course you're going for the majority of the things, but you've got to remember who is your target audience, because when you walk into a boardroom and you walk into an office somewhere, or you present at a community center somewhere, you don't know who is going to be in that audience. You don't know the age brackets necessarily or anything, okay? So that's what I want to make sure that we know. The marketing presentation, the very first thing I tell people, find your most OCD, picky person. And that's going to be, some of you are looking at somebody over there. It must be you in the group, right? Or you, one of you two. But find the most picky person that you know is detail oriented, okay? And that is going to be the person that you need to make sure that they're in front of you when you're doing your presentation to say, this was cut off like a check sheet. Boom, boom, boom. Because once you've got your check sheet, you can have perfect scores on these. There's nobody that's going to say you can have a perfect scored presentation. There's not a problem with that. What we do is we have usually about 5 or 6 judges in the room at the time, and then that way we have a combined, so we have some hard judges. If we know some judges from the past are harder than some of the other lenient, we make sure we've got 2 or 3 hard judges, 2 or 3 lenient judges, and then a mixture of all those. So the very first thing I would tell you is to make sure, okay, let's go down this as a check sheet. The company structure, operations, well-defined roles. Most of the time, people walk in. Now, there have been some that walk in, shake hands, and start giving out pieces of paper. You're not going to buy any points. You're not going to out-design anybody for any points. We have had people who didn't have a flyer, did not have a folder, did not have a gimme or some kind of, token or some kind of something, and still did very, very well in their presentations. You have some that they market, you're tying it all together with all of these things. So you may have a pencil to give to the judges with butterflies. That's not necessary, but a lot of places across South Best and here are doing little things like that. They have little goodie bags, they have little trinkets. There'll be things that you put in your team exhibits that you may give to other people. You may not give them to the judges, you may give them to other people, because guess what? Let's say Wilson's walking around with a butterfly from Lexington. I mean, we're like, wow, that was some marketing there, because guess what? You've got it, but she's obviously giving it to you, or somebody from her team did. So that shows us that, that's a pretty good marketing brand when someone else has something of yours. Okay? One of the other things that you have, if you want to come in and you just want to line up and tell us the introductions and things like that, some people feel comfortable with that. You will have most likely your CEO or your chief, your president, whatever you're going to call them or title them, but make sure they're not the only one doing the entire talking of the presentation, okay? Because when you do that, then we think, okay, that person knows their stuff, but does everybody else know their stuff? Okay, so keep that in mind. You may know it, and there may be a situation where you may have somebody who really does not like public speaking, so they do not want to go up under any circumstances. Well, they still may be there, but make sure they're paying attention to what's going on. Make sure they're acknowledging the room. Make sure that everybody's acknowledging each other, because what happens is little guy over here or a little young lady over here who's not paying attention, she's completely doing her hair. The guy is scratching his head. He's got his cuffs. He's messing with his cuffs on his shirt. Things like that. So you start, if you don't have a role to play, you end up kind of getting off task. Okay, that's why you always hear everybody saying, pay attention, pay attention. It's because they want to keep everybody on task. Let's see here. Tell us about, this is my manager. Go into it where you're speaking nothing but business. This is business. You are no longer Creekside Academy. You are no longer Red Bay Middle School or High School. You are no longer Meek. You're no longer Brooks. You are such and such business. You are this robotics business trying to sell to these people in the audience. Okay? You're trying to talk me into getting whatever you have. Okay? And y'all are teenagers. Most of you are teenagers in here. You are trying to get to your parents to do something, whether or not it's get you a better phone, get a car, let you go to so-and-so's party, let you go out Friday night or Saturday night. Y'all are really good at this, okay? So just put the effort that you put into trying to get mom and dad or grandma or grandpa to get you something and sell it to us. Some of y'all are finally getting it. I can see it on your faces. You're like, well, I never thought of that. Yeah. Okay, the organization of the company departments. That's 10 points right there. Some people will have one slide that says, boom, this is how we organized our departments. And it sounds simple, but it's true, and it works, because guess what? That judge sitting over in the corner is going to, because each time you leave the room, we wait until you're all out of the room, and then we discuss. In case I didn't or somebody else didn't hear, did they say anything about roles or organizations? And there'll be a judge that says, yeah, remember that sheet, or remember that piece of paper, or remember that slide. Or there'll be another one that says something like that. So keep that in mind. The demographics, male, female. If you come from a school that doesn't have a lot of minorities, or doesn't have, maybe your robotics team are all African American males. That's all you could get to sign up for your robotics team. Okay? Then tell us as judges, yes, we have a whole team of, a team set up of we don't have diversity. Say, for instance, we don't have a diverse group, but we put out that an application, or however, because some groups are applying to be on robotics teams now. They've grown so much. So it's not just if you want to sign up, you get to be on it. Some have auditions, some have to do applications now. Some it's, hey, if you're in the school, you're in the group, that kind of deal. So it works different for each person, but as long as you can show us that, hey, we put on bulletin boards at school that we invited everybody to apply, then you've shown us that you didn't leave anybody out, okay? Evidence of a budget. Some of y'all are going to be as broke as a joke, okay? And it's okay. You might not want to say that in the presentation, but you can say, hey, we didn't have any funding, or our funding was given to us by, we put $10 a piece into the pot. Or you can actually, this is the one time you can have a false budget. You can come in there and tell us you have millions and millions of dollars. But if you've got millions and millions of dollars, we want to know how you spent your millions and millions of dollars. Okay? Was it in advertising? Was it in sales? How did you do it? Trips, I think somebody put, we had all of our CEOs went to a trip to Hawaii at one point. But they showed it to us, and it was like, okay, that happens, so at least it works. So just show that they can be real or fictitious. Now these, like I said, I'm going through these. What I would do, if you don't like to write, or I'm speaking too fast, just make little notations as examples under here. And because this is your cheat sheet. This is your cheat sheet. These are the same pieces of paper that you're going to get these back too. Your teacher or your sponsor will get the information back. And they'll come like this, and they'll say what comments were made. Because the judges will make little comments too. Like, I guarantee you on that one where that poor guy was chewing that gum, I guarantee you I put do not chew gum during presentation. Probably all over it, because that just drives me nuts during a presentation. But brainstorming approaches. Okay. How did you decide who's going to work and who? Some of you have already started taking pictures. Some of you have taken pictures tonight of your group here. Some of you have taken pictures outside. Some of you, put a couple pictures up of how did we decide who was going to work on the website? How did we decide who was going to do this or do that? That's your brainstorming. That's it. Put a big, I don't have any, put a big circle right here and put your little lines out here that says, how did we decide it? Or we decided it because guess what? There was only one person that wanted to do it. And that's who we decided. Well, there's your decision. And let us know. But put it in your pattern of maybe so-and-so is responsible for this or so-and-so is responsible for that. But guess what? If you have someone, you need to have someone from your tech department in the presentation. You need somebody in your marketing presentation that knows the information, because we're going to ask those questions and we may not necessarily ask it to the person who's doing the most talking. Okay? Let's see. Analytical evaluation, your design alternatives. We have seen people just literally take the pictures out of their engineering notebook, take a picture, scan it, and put it in there. So it's as easy as just letting us know. We've had people that said, and I love this because I love it when someone says, hey, we tried this and it didn't work, so we tried this. Because that's what I have to do at work all the time. I tried this, it didn't work. It doesn't always work the first time right. Or if so, y'all are so very, very lucky, But that's the way we do. Effective implementation of the engineering process, same thing. How did you do it? What did you do? How did you fix it? That kind of deal. Publicity efforts. Now people have started doing this a lot because of the fact that we're all broke as jokes and you hear all this funding and your parents are telling you, hey, we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that. It's everywhere nowadays, okay? And so we say, how did you publicize? Did you go? How did you get your t-shirts paid for? Did you get a sponsor? Did you get someone that said, hey, if you put my name and you put my business, my sub-business on the back of your t-shirt, I'll pay for a portion of your t-shirt. Or I'll even pay for all of the t-shirt as long as I have the biggest logo. We do that all the time in business because you want your brand to be the bigger or better brand. Just like, okay, Target. What's Target's brand? What's their branding? Big red circle and the dog. Okay, Walmart. Yes. McDonald's. Yes. Okay, when you see those, no matter where you are in the city, the country, travel abroad, you're going to see the golden arches. You're going to know, okay, I just might get a Big Mac there. I might get some French fries. I might get this. So that's part of your branding. I want to be able, and I've seen some of you for so long now that we can see and we can pretty much say, okay, that's going to be this one, because they haven't changed a lot of what they're doing. And that brings continuity. Anyway, flyers, brochures, posters, bring those in. Bring examples to us. Show us. We had one group that seriously placed very well on their presentation, and they came in with actual drawings that they had just pieces of paper, fresh drawings, and they went through and passed them out and showed them to us. And they ended up scoring very high because of the fact that we were able to say, okay, this is where they're coming from on that. Of course, the CAD drawings, all you have to do, let us know your use of technology, your web page, your PowerPoint. What did you use? That way we can ask everybody. Me, when I get into the Robot C and the Easy C and all that, I'm not familiar with all of that. But I would be, as a person on the marketing team, I would be familiar enough to say, I might not know all of this answer to this question, but let me refer you to so-and-so who worked on this portion. It is okay to say, I'm not sure, but you need to be able to go to another resource. Okay? So going, I don't know, and just standing there looking at us, that doesn't fly. That's not good. But I don't know, but I know the person you need to speak with. That makes me know, okay, that's someone I want to hire, because if they can't find the answer, they're willing to go a little bit further to find it. Web page development, the same thing. Communication skills. We're not requiring, we had in the past, there was some that dressed up, like one had a theme that was an airplane, and they had pilots and they had flight attendants, and they came in dressed as pilots and flight attendants, and it worked for them. I tell people, make sure if you are all wearing what they call business casual, or you're all wearing dresses and the guys are in suits and coats, make sure everybody in that marketing presentation are aware of that. So, because you don't want the person who's wearing a suit and tie to be next to the one who's wearing jeans and a t-shirt, because all of a sudden you don't look as professional. So I tell people, whatever your team wear ends up being, if your team wear ends up being your t-shirt, because some people do team wear, we've had people do team wear pants, we've had some jogging suits, and then that stopped a long time ago because it got really expensive. And so if you end up having if your team has a shirt that everybody feels comfortable in, then everybody in blue jeans and a shirt. And that way everybody looks the same, you look professional. That's why you have all these businesses that have everybody have a dress code. Or creativity of format. Now that kind of gets into the more subjective part of you, okay? Because what I might think is more creative, it might be different than what a gentleman might think is more creative, or someone else. You met the specifications. Did you have the minimum of 4 people in your room? Did you have a maximum of 8? That's all you're going to have in that room is a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 8. Did you use the time limit? That's 10 points right there. You stayed in the time limit and you used the right amount of people. That's pretty easy. I got my 10 points there. So you know you're going to get that. If you walk in there with a minimum of 4 and no more than 8 and you use the right time, you got your 10 points. No reason. Now, of course, if you spend 8 minutes sitting there just talking to each other, and we have had that, or arguing with each other, we have had that. Because remember, they're still judging you when you walk in the door. So don't argue with each other too much, or at least, wait until we don't see you. Quality of answers to the responses to the judges. That's when each judge has their preferences of what they like to ask. If you get me in your group, the first thing I'm going to ask you, for those of you who've been in there, is how did you deal with conflict amongst teammates? And when you tell me, we didn't have any conflict, I think, somebody's telling me a story. Because I know you cannot get a group of people together and not have any conflict. I've never been in a group that didn't have some type of conflict. And whether or not it worked out and everything else, but it's okay to say, we had a little bit of conflict, but we worked it out, or we just kind of took our own few minutes alone, because some people, they're better off going, and some people it's better to put them in another room, and then that's the way it is. Or we cancel the rest of the night and nobody talked to each other for a week. Okay, it happens. All right. Any questions on marketing presentations? You all know it. You're all going to be perfect on this. Okay. What? Okay.
Okay, for like PowerPoint presentation, are you allowed to show videos or?
Yes. Yes. I would recommend that you practice that and make sure that those links, and keep in mind you don't want it to be an 8-minute video in your 12 to 15 minute, but you can. If there's a link that you want to say, hey, this is what we used to find this information, that's no problem at all. What scares you about it? What scares you about the marketing? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to repeat your question. The question was, are you allowed to use links or videos in your actual PowerPoint? Okay. What scares you, like when you're talking about the marketing presentation, what scares you about it?
Presenting it.
Presenting it? Just actually being in front of people? And that's where your team's going to come in handy. And your bathroom mirror, your bedroom mirror. Seriously, that practicing, because even in the professionalism and being in the same job for as many years as I still, when I know I've got a grant funding opportunity that I've got to have, I'm still practicing it. Practicing it in the car, thinking about it, talking about it when you're friends. And then the fact that you want to practice amongst each other, to your other tech people, and let them give you feedback without make it constructive criticism. You don't want to, say, hey, maybe you're saying something that you don't even realize you're doing, or you're biting your lip, or you're playing with your hair and you don't even realize it because you've done it so long, or you're nervous and that's what you're doing. So tell people, nicely, hey, be careful, be mindful of this. Yes, ma'am.
One thing we had a problem with last year, it took us for a surprise, we didn't even think about it, is when we were doing a presentation, and along with continuing as a company, one of the judges asked us what were some speeches that we had to say, because we were big on finding a good place to put it last year, the place or whatever, and we were completely unaware of that. What's a better way that we can prepare for those 10 questions of what communities did you help and stuff like that? You know what I mean?
Like where you got the information out, where you did your publicity efforts, or?
One of the goals last year especially with the robots, was you had to put the chickens somewhere else, like in a habitat.
Okay. Okay.
And they said along with the chickens, what were other species that you helped save in the process?
Okay, I know what I guarantee you I know which judge did that. Okay, yeah.
We just started saying
Yeah.
fox and snakes. And
I know. Y'all like, okay, we had emus, we had ferrets, we started saving the world. No, you're going to have those questions, and believe it or not, you'll see some of our faces too when those questions come out, because what they think that they're asking and what they're trying to do are sometimes a little bit different, and they mean well. I was supposed to repeat the question, but she was so close to the question that maybe. The question was, I'm sorry, the question was, how do you actually make a solution to something that was not even maybe part of the game plan or the game design or something like that. And you almost become, and I don't want to say, you almost have to do that improv, just because being here, I don't know what questions you're going to ask me, so I don't have them planned out or anything, but you're almost going to have to know, and it's okay to answer it funny, and it's okay to say, well, we were so busy worrying about these chickens over here that we didn't even have an opportunity, but we've got a new director or a new department that's going to help, and it's okay to just kind of fluff. Yeah, fluff. I'm trying to get...
A make-believe answer to a make-believe question.
There you go. That's perfect. You can answer a make-believe answer to a make-believe question. And I'm going to put that on a bumper sticker somewhere that it's allowed. Okay? Because we're not saying you're lying, but it's a make-believe situation. And if this happened, then it's okay that you didn't save all the emus and ferrets and everything else. Okay? All right. Yes, sir.
In the presentation, are we confined to presenting, or can we request maybe participation in activity from the judges? Like if we
Wow.
get them to play rock, paper, scissors with each other for the presentation, can we do that?
Okay, the question is, you know what, I think my scribe here should be the one repeating the question instead of standing here showing me this piece of paper. The question is, can we get the judges to actually participate in a portion of the presentation, or can we get them to do an activity? I say yes, and of course I am able to say yes as long as Stephanie says yes, because Stephanie's the big boss. But she's very lenient with me on because when I'm saying yes to you, we're going to send all of these questions out with the answer that I gave tonight, and that's going to be the end-all be-all of this portion of it. But I say that would be a creative format that I would love to see, personally. I would love to see any kind of interaction. Now, keep in mind, you've got different judges that may feel differently. So you may have someone who, and we will explain to the judges that, hey, the students might be trying to be a little bit more creative this year, so they're going to be doing this or doing that. It's not required or anything like that. You can actually, just like I'm doing with you guys, I'm asking you questions back and forth and you're giving me feedback, because sometimes I don't know what you're thinking. I don't even know if you're awake, maybe. That kind of deal. So anything like that, just keep in mind, it should be done well.
Are we going to have an audience as well, or is it just going to be the judges?
Okay, the question was, are we going to have an audience as well during the presentation? You will just have the judges, and you do not have to have anyone video. A lot of teams don't have anyone video their presentations, but if you choose to have someone video, they are up to being asked the same questions that we can ask of you. Okay? See, I love this. We're actually getting somewhere tonight. Okay. Anything else? Okay, let's move on. Because y'all are so happy to be here. Best teamwork. Has everybody got the best teamwork? Actually, I'm going to skip that. Sorry, hold on. Don't do it. Team exhibit and interviews. This is where we need to really work on. Yeah, some of y'all went, we know. Anybody need any of these? I know the same three do. Okay, team exhibit and interview score sheet. That's what we're going to go over next. And in your little packet that we've got that has that draft on there, I'm also going over some of these little guidelines in here also. So if you wonder where is she getting that information, you're going to have all of this. Just make sure that you kind of keep an eye on it. Each team will be provided a standard table, okay, 6 feet long. That's what you're going to have. If you need more than that, guess who's going to bring it? You are. Yep, you are. The allowed spaces are going to be 8 by 11 by 8. Okay. Oh, wait, excuse me. I lied. I take that back. 8 by 8 by 8. Sorry. This includes your bases or support structures. The judges actually have measuring tapes. So we'll have it sorted out, when you actually sign up and get your positions in the tent, where you're going to be and how you're going to be set up. But we actually have measuring tape. So if we think you've got a big design on your team exhibit that's going over into somebody else's space, or we think, okay, we can actually measure it. So keep that in mind. Some of the stuff that you should limit the activities outside of your booth. Do not block the traffic or passersby. I know at one time we talked about people we had, you're going to have some people that are dressed up in costumes. You're going to have some people that have not only their parents and their other students, but you're going to have fans that come and watch them. They're going to have other people. So if you're one of those teams that like to do gymnastics or like to do cheerleading things or stuff like that, don't do it near someone else's exhibit, okay? And there's going to be plenty of grounds for y'all to cover that. You're going to be assigned by drawing at kickoff, so teams could plan with your location in mind then. Now, this year, you're going to be able to set up in the event. Now, the parking lot, for those of you that are new, the parking lot beside the dorms, okay, that's where we're going to have a big, huge tent. That's where we're going to be set up again. Now, you can actually set up beginning Thursday and Friday. Now, here's the deal, though. There's security that will actually be out there but there's only like one security guard or two security guards. The fact is that I wouldn't leave anything out there that could be stolen or could be damaged by the weather or the dew or anything like that. I wouldn't be leaving my laptop out there or setting up something. Or if you have pictures or anything that you're going to have hanging up there, keep in mind if it gets stuck with the dew or, it may change what it looks like that next morning. Judges will begin at 9 a.m. on Saturday, actually going around to the exhibits. You should have student representatives in your exhibits between 9 and 3, except during lunch, okay? And then we will make an all clear announcement, and we'll say all clear. The judges have already graded everybody or judged everybody, so they're not going to be there anymore. And the reason why we did that is because we want to make sure you still are able to participate with the competition and be able to share. You should expect to be visited by 3 judges who are assigned to your booth during that period. You will have some judges that will come into your booth and will not say a word. We do want them to ask questions of your actual, where did you come up with this concept? Why did you use this? Some of them will feel free to ask that, and then some will just be listening to how you respond to someone else. Okay, so keep that in mind. You may be being judged and you're not aware that you're being judged. Okay, and we do that out of fairness to say, okay, everything, all's fair in love and war here. You're supposed to be having your marketing booth set up, your team exhibit set up, and we want to ask and see if you're professional in it and if you know the answers to those questions. Several times we've had some booths in the past that we've actually shown up at the booths, the team exhibits, no one there. Now there are some teams that are very, very small. We have some teams that have maybe 4 or 5 people. So it's hard for them to be on the floor and it's hard for them to be in there. And we understand that. That's why we're only judging at certain times of the day and things like that. So when you see the judges, and usually they have a bunch of papers with them and they've got clipboards, and you kind of get to where, and they usually have on a blue shirt like April has on, or one of the shirts that say best, or they've got a lantern that says judge on it. And that's usually the ones that y'all are like super, super nice to. It's amazing. Their doors just kind of open for us on competition day. It's nice. You may not give out any candy at all, food or drinks from your actual team exhibit booth. Okay? Now, if you are grilling out in your own tent on the side and you make hamburgers for everybody, that's okay to give hamburgers to another teammate or anything like that. Best just did not want any kind of candy incentives or food or anything like that because, keep in mind, whatever you are giving to somebody, if there's somebody with a little bitty person with them, they could, like a toddler, they could swallow it, and then we've got a problem. So you need to have people that will be interviewed. We can interview the pit crew too. We can interview people in the stands. So keep that in mind. Now, we have told people, because of the fact that you cannot teach all of your fans all of this information, we're not going to grade you or score you or judge you based on, guess what, we asked Joe Smith, row 3 of the bleachers, and he didn't know the answer to that question. But we do want you to be able to tell, and what we've told people is when you get there, tell the parents or your group, or have one of your parents that you know that doesn't mind talking to everybody, and say, hey, go around and tell them what our concept is. Matter of fact, you might even want to plan something that says, hey, we want to present in front of our parents, or we want to present in front of our team, sponsors or things like that. That way, they all know what it was about, and that way if a judge says, hey, what is that other team? What was that team? And then they might be able to say, hey, that's our team. So that kind of deal. All right, going through the score sheet, our little cheat sheet again. And I know y'all can read this, and I know I always hate being read to, but the fact is, we will still have people that will say, why did I get marked off? And it was simple as you didn't remember to put that down. Okay. Now, your purpose of the team exhibit is to communicate an understanding of the game theme and demonstrate how it's promoted in best, okay? That's easy as pie. The branding, that is getting making it all seem the cross. Put your number of your team on everything, okay? That way the judges, bless you, the judges know in case, you may have a team that their colors are the royal blue or the red or something like that. You don't want the judges to be able to say, well, wasn't that the red team? Because if there's 2 red teams, and maybe one is a really good red team and one's a really bad red team, even though they're no bad and best, but maybe they're not as good. So I'm trying to fluff. Okay. Sharing information and technology resources and mentoring to other schools. That's what you want to show in your team exhibit. If you went and you did a speech or you did a presentation at Lenny's Subs, and they gave you so much money, I would have a picture of me or my teammates with Lenny's Sub, or I would have something that showed it so that the judges says, hey, they did work out. If your school newspaper or your school newsletter or something writes up something about your best robotics program, have it. That's simple. You've got that. If you did it yourself and made an announcement, you can write to the paper and say, hey, we want coverage on this. And if it's a slow news day, you might get coverage. Presentations and robot demonstrations. Did you take your robot to another school? Did you take it to another classroom in your school? If you're a high school and a middle school student, did you take it to your elementary school and do assembly? Did you take it to a boys and girls club? Did you take it to the Girl Scouts? Just let them know. That's 15 points right there for just presenting. So you could do one presentation to one group and make sure you tell us about it and show it. You've got to show that you've done it. Publicity, print materials, media, press, generated within the school and out. Maybe you're not you're not able to do this during the school time, so you have to do it after school or weekends, or maybe you're doing this with your church family or something like that. Then show that, hey, we couldn't present here, but a couple of us happened to go to church together and we did it for the Sunday school class. That kind of deal. Fundraising, sponsorships. They're asking people, now we have had some in the past that say, I had one girl stood up there, she crossed her arms, and all she said was, my dad and my mom gave me the money. Okay, thank you. Anything else you'd like to add? That was all she wanted to add, and that was all we had to grade on or judge on. So if that may be the fact that, hey, you said to grandma or grandpa or mom or dad, hey, look, my birthday's coming up, I need $50 for this, or, whatever. That's okay. That's a sponsorship. You don't have to say, we got a sponsorship from some of our family members, or we were able to, you got to add that little bit of fluff to make it sound pretty. All right, some private schools are not allowed to fundraise, and we understand that completely. So, however, your school allows you to do that. Sometimes they don't allow at all any source of fundraising. Sometimes it's maybe an in-kind service, like they can go clean up a garden somewhere and do something like that. So if your school has a rule that you're not allowed to fundraise in any way, shape, or form, please do not do so. Incorporating the theme into the design, that's going to be the same thing all the time. Tie it together, brand it together. Let us know that that is what you're trying to sell. If you're selling those robotic butterflies, then have some robotic butterflies somewhere. You know, make it, you don't want a bunch of robotic butterflies and then a dinosaur. Because my question to you is going to go, what about the dinosaur? What is the dinosaur? What is that about? Because guess what? If I don't know that based on what your team exhibit shows or anything like that, so you're going to be interviewed in this. Now, some of the judges will interview you for a long time where you feel like, oh man, please quit talking to me, you know. And we know that, but that's the thorough job. And so there's another group that's getting that same judge doing the same thing in those other areas. So don't think, oh, they're just picking at me, or they might just like the information you're giving them, or they're trying to get you to give them a little bit more information. So, and there's nothing wrong with being able to say, you know, I don't know this information, let me get somebody. But don't throw your hands up as soon as you see a judge get to the team exhibit and go, ah, you know, because we have had that where they look like, no, please don't help me. Okay, so compliance with specification. That's 10 points right there that you kept your 8 by 8 by 8. You stayed in your own little box. That's your 10 points. That's easy. Believe it or not, you'll have somebody who will say, I'd rather have that extra feet. Well, you'd rather lose those 10 points for that extra feet? No, doesn't work. You're going to be marked off. Evidence of your learning experience, your understanding. Where did you get the game theme? You know, the game theme this year is the pay dirt. When it comes back, okay, what is it? How did it work for you? What made you think of? What made you decide what you did? What made you decide how you did your T-shirt design? What made you decide how you were going to do your website? All right. Evidence of your enthusiasm. You know, that, bless your heart, I know it's almost 6 o'clock night. Your enthusiasm's kind of waned by the end of the night, okay? You've been at school all day. You probably were up all night long on your cell phones. You know, that, yeah, you're all like, not doing homework, but you're exhausted, you're tired. So when that judge comes over, guess what? You're going to be exhausted and tired by the time they get there. Pretend you're not. You know, hello, you're happy to see us. It's so great to see you guys. Because believe it or not, we see that. We want to be able to feel that enthusiasm too, because we know, hey, last year it was the day after Halloween. Oh, we were all tired, okay? We all stayed out late that night. So we were ready for that enthusiasm. This year we're kind of hoping that everybody's going to have their own day and everything's going to be great. All right, recruitment efforts. That was the whole thing. Multiple grade levels. Did you try to, if you're high school, did you try to reach out to some middle schoolers? Did you try to, if you're a team that's primarily 9th grade, did you reach out to 10th graders, 8th graders? That's letting them know the school population, there are females in your group, there are males in your group, you know, different nationalities, anything like that. Now, of course, if you don't have that in your school and there's not a population, just so that you know, hey, we tried, we reached out. Evidence that you were the primary designers and builders. This we are really, really cracking down on because of the fact that you are the ones that are supposed to be doing the work, okay? We want you, you're ones that are building the projects. You are the ones. Now, of course, some of you have these tools and machines and things like that that you have to have adult supervision, but adult supervision is not adult doing while the student stands by and texts, okay? We have had that, and we've had that even set up a day of competition where the students are over here doing whatever they want to do, and dad and uncle and whoever is chop, 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 snap, 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 beating and setting up. No. So that's 30 points you can lose right there, okay? All right, any questions on team exhibit interviews? I got all my good, okay, I heard,
Is it like the team exhibit and interviews with the whole team, or are you using like certain people out of each department and stuff like that?
Okay, the question was, is the team exhibit and interview have to be made up of the entire team or just certain people? Just certain people, because at certain times you may be on, part of your team or portion of your team may actually be competing in the competition at the same time you're competing in that portion of the competition at the exhibit. You know, that's what I would like to see more with marketing, is them to know that yes, there's a competition that's going on the floor, but there's also a competition that's going on in these team exhibits and these websites and these marketing presentations. They're just as important. So what I would do is I would just make sure that whoever is, and there may be times where there may be, and it doesn't have to be your marketing presentation staff that may be the ones manning the group. Sometimes it is. Sometimes there's a portion because you just don't have enough people or enough. But I would make sure everybody that's in that booth is familiar with what you're trying to do, because that way, if they happen to show up, and you know, there's nothing wrong, and I'll make sure I tell the judges this too. There's nothing wrong with saying, I am completely not familiar with this aspect, but I need to, you know, because I want to, you're going to know something about it. You don't want to say every question, I'm not familiar with this, I'm not familiar with that, because you want to make yourself familiar. And by doing that, it's just saying, hey, you know so-and-so is the tech part. I'm going to go over there and say, hey, look, what did you use? Easy C, Robot C, what was that? You know, that kind of deal. And at least you have it in your mind that this is, wait, you know, tie it together. We did a few years back, we did the space to the elevator to space was the thing, yeah. And we actually had a team that built an actual elevator that went in, and they had a little guy that was dressed up as an elevator doorman, and you know, we went in and you actually felt like you were in the door. So that can be different. So you can use your creativity in that aspect also. You can tie the themes to that. We had one where we had the aliens. Of course, that was a space elevator. We had the aliens, and they were actually people dressed up as aliens. And so that was part of their group. And we're going to get into the mascot and the costume in a minute. So, I mean, there's things. And then there's some people that are very, you know, they've got their like a classroom. They've got it set up like a classroom. They've got their plaques. They've got their whatever they've got. So it's okay to be different, and you're not judged because, oh, this one built a whole elevator and you didn't. But, boy, are you tying the theme together when you're doing things like that. So we had one last year that had what was it? It was a cowboy, and it was like a rodeo theme. So they had their theme, but their theme went all the way through their presentation. That went all the way through every aspect of it. You just knew that was the rodeo team. Yeah, so you know that kind of deal. Any fears? Happies? Yes?
I have a comment as a person who doesn't.
This is what you're going to actually turn in when you turn it in, when you do your website. What is the main thing I'm going to say about your website? I know somebody knows it. You heard me say it earlier. Make sure something happens. All your links. That's the first thing we go through and see is, boom, is it turn on? And we do link. So make sure all your links work, okay? Make sure, now some of you have to, the way you're set up, you have to go through your school, and then from your school go to your actual website address. And then some of you've got your own website address, and some of you've had it for so long it's like it's almost become a business entity itself. But those are the things that we need to know. I would say that have someone that didn't work on the website be the person that helps you critique your website. Okay, because once you're looking at something for so long, it starts to look good, and then at one point you start to not even care anymore if it looks good, and then you're done. You're like, okay, put a fork in me, I'm done. Okay, and that's what happens. But have somebody who hadn't looked at it at all to say, what did they like and what did they dislike? Now, if they go, ooh, because I know one group had some strobe lights that killed me, and I thought, all I kept thinking is, if one of my judges has seizures, we're going to have some problems. So I was like, please do not do strobe lights. Keep in mind, whatever you're doing on there, you need to make sure that it comes across as what you're trying to do, because strobe lights might look great to you on a rave at Friday night, and it doesn't look too hot on a website constantly. Yes, sir.
Okay, speaking of that, like strobe lights, if you actually make your booth and everything with strobe lights or anything, is there any actual limitations on what you put on there? Like, can you put a disco ball on there, but you can't actually put like lights that flash or something like that?
You know, one of the questions was, what are your limitations? What can you put into your booth? Can you put strobe lights? Can you put disco balls? You really can. It's just that if you have a strobe light, because of the fact that a strobe light can cause a seizure for people who have epilepsy or any kind of seizure disorder, that you need to have something in your booth that says, look, there is going to be a strobe light. I would prefer that you stay away from the strobe lights because of the fact that it is a health risk to other people. But a disco ball, that kind of ball, is different than the strobing. You know, the strobe lights are usually what cause the health concerns. The kind of disco balls are different. So that's okay. Light, music, things like that are allowed in the team exhibits. That's not a problem, but you've got to remember you're an 8x8x8, so you don't want to disturb every other person that's being interviewed for their team exhibit. So you don't want to have like the rock out band over here and this poor little girl over here is going, I can't hear you, and I can't hear you. So make sure, you know, you're just respectful, like if you were living in a dorm or something. Maybe dorm wasn't the best, but you know, if you're living somewhere where you kind of got to be a little bit considerate of your neighbor. Okay, any other questions? This is great. I love questions. All right. Your YouTube, your creative video, some people put it as a commercial for their product. Some people put it as an advertising for their team. Some people do it as an advertising for how they tied their theme together. It's pretty much going to be what you decide. It can be related to this year's theme. The purpose is to enhance your research and fact-finding skills. Most people do it as a news broadcast, a talk show, a short play, a commercial, or documentary. It's 90 seconds max. When we turn it on and we see that it's over 90 seconds, okay, so that's one of the first things you're going to see, and make sure it works. All right, website design. Same thing, your aesthetics and your appearance. How does it look? What impression did it make? And please check your grammar. I cannot tell you how many times someone has misspelled on their website. And as a previous English teacher, I want to just blow my head up, okay? But it happens, and because you've been looking at it for so long, it starts to look right. Have you ever seen so many people where they've misspelled a word for so long that everybody thinks it's spelled correctly, and then you realize that judgment's not spelled that way, or argument's not spelled that way, and you realize you've been spelling it this way for so long, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, okay, same thing here. Make sure, does it work? Do those links and those navigation bars. If you have a drop-down bar, make sure it works, because we're going to try it to see if it works, and then we're going to get lost, and then, you know, the poor little 80-year-old judge is going to be completely lost, so we're going to have to get him on something else. All right. Does the site convey the team's engineering company? Does it talk about the robots? Does it talk about the employees? A lot of our teams, they set it up as if it's like if you went to Google and you went to see the department head and they have pictures and things like that. Some people have cartoon pictures. Some people have real student pictures. Some people have put, really some time and some creativity in these things. You know, I recommend if you're going to do all black and white pictures, stick with all black and white pictures, because what'll happen is you'll get everybody's picture, and then you'll get so-and-so's a cartoon picture because he wasn't there that day. So try to, we've had that, we all do, it happens. When we had some that didn't have a picture, and then they would make something, creative reason why he wasn't there or whatever. So just, kind of do that. Let's see, what else? Your links to STEM. Make sure Best Robotics is put on your website somewhere. Okay, it's the best robotics competition. Put it somewhere, even if it's a big best whatever logo, whatever. Just make sure it's in there. It's included, because we don't want to lose fact of what we're really trying to do. Your interests, photos, videos, dates. Did you reach out to the rest of the school, community demonstrations? Put those pictures on there. Just make them look good. We all are living in an age of technology. We've seen websites. We've seen what looks good. What makes you go to this website versus this word? What makes you go to this search engine versus this search engine? The same thing with us. We're just doing it. And those are the points. Promoting best. Do you have a link to best? Do you have a link to Northwest Alabama's best? That right there. Those are two of your main things. 20 points. Have you got that? And there'll be people that'll go, oh, we forgot to do that. And it's 20 points right there. And they're like, and then they'll be mad, and the whole world is against them. And then we'll say, you just forgot to put that. And they're like, but it happens. All right. Any other questions on the website design? Yes, ma'am.
When you do links, sometimes with various places in the judge, if you put like a Facebook link for your company, it can be blocked. Is it going to be blocked?
If it's blocked because of the school itself, we actually have, Miss Cleveland actually helps us with like the computers that we use to kind of keep, what, I don't know what she runs on it, but it kind of opens it up a little bit more so we understand that. When it's blocked because of where we are at the time, and I forgot to repeat the question. The question was if a link is going to, for instance, going to go to Facebook and that Facebook area is blocked, is that going to count against us? No, it's not going to count against you because it's blocked because of where we happen to be. But it would count against you if you put a link in that says you're going to link to Northwest Best and you went to Northwest Best's Walmart or something like that. Hey, I'm fluffing here. Help me out here. All right, Teamwear Award. And let me tell you this real quick about the video design. It's on the other back, but you don't have to go to it. I'm just going to tell you what we're grading on is creativity, technical quality, functionality, appearance, and knowledge. So you pretty much can't go wrong with that one. So when it's optional like that, I tell people, do it. It's not going to hurt you. It can always help you. So, and it's only 90 seconds. We can do anything for 90 seconds, surely. All right, let's go to teamwear, and then we're going to save poor little costume mascot for the last. Then we'll go home. Okay, Best Teamwear Award. This is going to be set up a little bit different this year. All your submissions are going to be October 6th. That is so that we have the ability to judge and have them. You're going to attach a photo to your teamwear this year. And this is the reason why we started doing this, is because what would happen is we'd get a whole bunch of t-shirts and we'd get like a little piece of paper stapled onto the t-shirt, or we'd get it pinned on, or we'd get a crown coloring, saying this goes with such and such. So we're saying to people, make sure, we want to know why you decided to use that particular teamwear. If your teamwear happens to be, now just because the majority of people do t-shirts for several reasons. One, t-shirts can go for guys and girls and for your fan base, Two, they're cheaper than buying other stuff. So that's why, if you're saying, why are they only doing t-shirts? That is why. And a lot of times, a lot of the schools have used their t-shirts as a way of raising money by selling it to other students and their parents. So that kind of deal. All right, you're going to write in 1,000 words or less. If it takes you 10 words to describe it, then it's 10 words, okay? But make sure it's describing it enough to let us know why you chose what you chose. And then attach what we're going to, 30 points. Is it connected to the game theme or concept? Easy peasy. Is it? Does it make sense? If we're talking about pay dirt and we're talking about this game system, are we over here in Dinosaur Land? Why are we in Dinosaur Land? Because if you can show why this pay dirt hooked up to this dinosaur, hey, we're good to go. And you can use as much creativity as you can, or you want to. Creative design. Is it eye appealing? Is it graphically pleasing? Is that a color that, wow, we go, wow, that's nice? Or is that something that we're like, I can't even read what that says? Or, that kind of deal. Because we're looking at it, and I mean, some of them, I mean, I promise you, they're not just going, I love that Canada t-shirt. They're going, let's see, let's check her out here. Okay, well, I don't like how that's lined up there. And so, I mean, we're talking some serious stuff. I mean, it really gets kind of crazy. But then we also have those that go, oh, love the Canada shirt, and go on. So you're being judged by all these different levels of difficulty. School's name and number displayed. That's another one of those like Wilson. I would make sure if it had Wilson on it, it had Tomahawk and it had its number. Or like here, you've got your numbers on your sleeve. A lot of people have them on their sleeve. A lot of people have them on their back, front. Whichever way, it's going to be something that you decide as a team. It's not this is an optional, okay? But I tell people, these optionals where you're getting your points at too, And sometimes you may have someone who that's what they're in charge of, is just doing this portion of it. Now that was very, very easy. Tell me what you have any questions about. Yes, ma'am.
So And then we also had a t-shirt, like, they have to do the same thing, or can you have team wear that like some of your team wears, like, say a costume, which I guess we have whatever costume yet, but say like some of our team wears a costume around, but then the rest of our team, would they have to wear the same costume, or could they wear the t-shirt?
They could do, okay, the question was, y'all are killing me on this. The question was whether or not you have to have your team wear and whether or not your costume, everybody has to be in the same thing, or some people can be in one thing, or some people, 5 points off. No, I'm just kidding, edit. No, you don't have to. You don't have to have this. You're going to have some people that are going to be working the crowd, and that's what we're going to talk about when we talk about the costumes and things like that. And then you're going to have some that are in the presentations. And say, for instance, like we talked about the pilot and the flight attendants, when they came in, they may later on still be in their flight attendant outfit and be part of the competition, you know. So that's okay. You're not going to be judged on that. But at least I would have it where when you're turning in a team wear, we may glance up and see that t-shirt on you, for instance, and say, oh, and we happen to be a judge for that particular team wear, and we saw that, but then we're going to actually be in another room where you've turned in those outfits so that people can look at them and see the logos and see what information.
So would the t-shirt be the thing that we turned in for the team wear, or would it be like a costume?
The teamwork, the team, the question was, and it's going to come back down to what is the difference between the team wear, the costume, and the mascot, and we're going to get to that. The team wear is what you're going to turn in as a t-shirt. Then if you do the costume portion, because it's optional, then you're going to also turn in something separate for it. And that's a great segue into costume, unless there's any other questions for team wear. No. Okay, let's go to costume. The reason why costume, team wear, and all that, mascot and all that good stuff, we had some issues last year with costume and the difference between what a costume is versus what a mascot is. And we want to make sure that we get this completely right, because we have worked on it most of the year for this one. We were shocked that the mascot and okay. Mascot. This one, I want y'all studying it. I want y'all just studying it. Okay. Mascot is awarded to the team whose mascot inspires the most enthusiasm from the team and the crowd. Let's see. Wilson, who's your mascot? The what? Warriors. Okay. So you may have a mascot that's a warrior or whatever you are. I'm not sure. Okay. Don't like your examples, so I'm not calling on you anymore. Brooks is a lion. Okay, Brooks is a lion. Brooks fan over here. We will not let her judge you. Don't worry. Okay, she's not allowed to judge. All right. The mascot, enthusiastic, excites the fan and inspires fans to cheer. Here's the issue we had last year. If you are if you are the mascot, you need to be getting people to cheer. Okay, you need to be getting them to do that. Show good sportsmanship. Cheer others, not necessarily, you might not be cheering for your other teams as much, but you will see that. The new teams, when you see a lot of our kickoff and when we start everything, you're going to be like, wow, everybody's cheering for us. You're probably going to, Meek and Red Bay, the new teams. Oh, and there's some other new teams I know, and I hate if I'm not forgetting, but you're not represented in here today. But you're going to be like, people are going to be going crazy, screaming for your group because y'all are new and they want to, they want those spirit and sportsmanship. Stays in character. Your mascot needs to stay in character, okay? If your mascot is fighting with her boyfriend or your mascot is fighting with her little brother or whatever, if a judge sees it, it can be detrimental to whether or not you actually won. Okay. Best costume. Now here's the difference. The costume is actually part of your marketing plan. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, back to the mascot thing. Does the mascot actually have to be like a mascot, or just I'm a cheerleader, so could I just be like a cheerleader and come up with like the pom-poms and be like, what's good?
Yeah, as long as you've turned it in and we know that that's what we're actually looking for as your mascot. The question was, how can a mascot actually have to be a typical mascot like a lion or a bear or whatever, or can it be a person doing a crowd? Because you will have some. There will be some cheerleading squads here. There will be some bands here. There will be some groups that they bring everybody. I don't know where they get some of these students, but they bring everybody. And then you'll have some, and that's okay. we do look out to see, okay, that there is a group of, there's 50 parents here and there's only 10 over here. But guess what? Those 10 may be louder than those 50 ever dreamed about, and that shows the spirit and sportsmanship of that group. So it doesn't matter. You may have the whole gym full of your team, but not necessarily the actual winner of the spirit and sportsmanship. The costume is to be used as your marketing plan. Okay, this is the example of the stewardess or flight attendants and pilots. Okay, the costumes are going to be in your team exhibit and your trade show booth. All right? Can you see that they are connected to the game theme? They relate to your marketing plan, and you're talking about creative design. Does everybody understand the difference between the costume and the mascot? And the only reason why I'm harping on this is because we have had a lot of people saying, why didn't my mascot win? Our mascot was so cute, or our mascot was the best. Well, your mascot might not have been doing all the mascot duties that they were supposed to be doing. So that's something to consider, okay? All right. So somebody tell me what the costumes are going to be related to. Marketing. So just remember, costume, marketing plan. Mascot, going to be spirit and sportsmanship. The only way I can remember that is mascots are usually at football games. And that's how it's in my mind, okay? And I think of best as it's my football game for nerds. I'm a nerd. I love it. That's the way it is. I think you can actually do a lot more doing this, because we've had a lot of people, and I've told students that have actually said, why are we doing this? Because after a while you get tired of it and you change, and your opinions change and everything. You're doing this because you are going to use this. That wonderful algebra that you swear up and down you'll use? I never used that algebra. But my public speaking and my marketing, I use it every day of my life, no matter what job I've ever worked in. So because you've got to learn how to deal with people, you've got to learn how to deal with things, you got to be able to learn how to fluff when it's appropriate and not fluff when it's not. Okay, so that's exactly what life has for us. Let's see. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to go over the questions really quickly. I'm actually on time. I'm so proud of myself. Okay, I'm going to go over the questions that we've had the last couple of years. So for those of you that are newbies, you'll hear it. For those of you that just zoned out on me 20 minutes ago, you won't. It'll be okay. But we'll still be sending some of these out to you, okay? These are the questions that were asked, and you will get copies of these again, and I recommend to everybody to read over them. These are the questions tonight that April's been taking. Is when we get these questions, of course we're going to have it on there, but we're also going to send them, Stephanie will send them to everybody to say, hey, this is what we had, this is how she answered it, and then Stephanie gives the okay if that's the way it's going to stay. One of the questions was, teams have used QR codes in the past using the same font, logo, color schemes like real professional companies use to market. They pull it all together. Shall we do that this year too? And the question is, whatever it takes to pull it all together, whatever makes it look like a professional presentation. If teams have presented to classes and businesses to get practice and feedback, they reported to have been helpful to them. One team has diamond level sponsorships. Like if you give $100, you're a silver level. If you give $200, you're maybe a gold. So and I'm saying 100. It could be $10. It could be $5. Some people sold lollipops at school. Some people just said, "Hey, look, you're my friend. Give me $5, and they're a sponsor." So however, just keep track of your funds. For marketing presentations, teams must bring your own equipment. We've got that. Put your team name and number on everything, guys. And since our hub is growing, which is great, we don't want to have to match up. And in a professional world, if you turn in a grant or you turn in a proposal that doesn't have all the stuff, guess what? Chances are you're not going to get that. The booth tent, we've got that'll be set up. I'm not sure about the closed circuit TV. I'm thinking it's still going to be there. With us having more teams this year, it's actually going to have, it is, okay, great. I know that there was a lot of room for people to sit out there last year. Nobody was sitting, so I think we're actually going to have to use it for booths this year. Can people chew gum in the presentation? Y'all are going to answer that. No. Points would most likely be deducted. Also, please refrain. Oh, yes, we did have this happen. Don't put lip gloss on, girls. Young ladies, don't put your lip gloss on while you're in the middle of a presentation, okay? And our judges, college workers from Northwest, some of them are, and some of them aren't. Our judges come from different, what we do, what we call the vetting process for the judges is, for instance, if I have, which my child's older, but if I had a child that was in Red Bay and went to Red Bay school, then I'm not going to judge anything about Red Bay, because that might not be fair for me. So what we do is every judge that applies, we ask them where their school, where they went to school, where their kids go to school, where their grandkids go to school, and they're not going to be watching another. And so far we haven't had any incidences. Knock on wood somewhere. Can teams bring in a TV or cart to the presentation? The rolly parts, that actually worked for a lot of teams. If you don't have a little rolly cart, if you've got big strong guys or big strong girls, then let them bring it in. If we do a music video for the presentation, will we need to bring your own speakers? You will need to bring your own speakers for things like that. Will there be a microphone provided? We will not be providing a microphone, but most of the classrooms are going to be, most likely will be in this building for presentations. And I mean, I'm pretty loud anyway, but you're not going to need to see, if there's only 4 or 5 of us judges in here, there's not a whole lot of talking, so you're going to be heard, unless you have a really, really soft voice like this. And we have had people talk like this, and I can't hear a word they say, so it doesn't matter. I'm like, I don't know here. What are the walls in the room made of? They were sheetrock. We did have that question. Can we bring, we did, and we're all just like, I don't know. Can we bring our drum line to march in the Mascot parade? Now, drum lines in the Mascot parades, just like the mascots actually need to be, the drum lines can play, but like the cheerleaders, if y'all are on the floor, you can actually be like standing there. You can't actually do you can't do the, what do you call them? Yeah, stunts and climbing on each other and all that, because we had a little alien that almost killed somebody, almost decapitated a judge, and we're not going to do that anymore. Will we be judging the tailgating tent design? No, we won't judge the tailgating tent. If your tent over here for your school or your group or whatever, we're not going to judge. We may walk by just because we're seeing y'all or whatever, but we're not going to judge what's going on in there. They will only judge what's going on in your team exhibit. Yes?
Speaking of stunting and eagle, and you almost killed someone, what am I? Number one, are we going to have another like mascot dance off for any of those little things there? And number two, if anything like last year happens and someone gets hurt, would we actually get points deducted or something like that? Like whenever that kid's.
Well, if you decapitate somebody.
Well, if you decapitate, we get kind of really serious about that. No, the question was, is there's going to be a dance-off, a mascot dance-off, and if there's any punishment if someone gets hurt or anything like that. So far, knock on wood, we haven't gotten any, no one's gotten hurt, and we're hoping that that doesn't happen. That's why we're kind of saying just keep it straight to when they doing their dancing, just like, we actually danced at one point, even with the judges danced at one point with you students and things like that. And the fact is that the mascots, yeah, that's not a video we want to see anymore. The mascots, they're going to be dancing and they're going to be doing things, but we tell them, keep it calm, keep it, be fun, but don't do cartwheels and things like that. So.
Because there was like a kid last year who was dancing, his shoe flew off and hit a kid in the face in the stands.
We didn't hear that. We're going to edit that out. And it happens, and chances are it might be me. I'm not sure, but yeah. If anybody's going to be hurt, it'll be one of us because we can't walk. And but yeah, we'll try to avoid. But it happens. You're going down these hills, and we're all running. I can't tell you how many. If I wish I'd had $1 for every teenager I saw run into the little pipe stand right over there last year. It was like they were all talking and japoink, and I was like, I want another one. It was like little flies to windows or something, and I don't know what y'all were doing, but I was like, what is going on out here? So that's okay. Let's see. Teams are not required to have your tailgate tent, and you're not required to cheer, but it does look bad on you and it does look bad on the other students. You're here for, it's a competition, grant you, but it's also a learning experience. So will the tailgating be part of the spirit and sportsmanship? Yes, it can be. It's not a requirement, but if you see that you're doing a good job and everything, that's part of spirit and sportsmanship. Are there any restrictions on tailgating? No candy. They're saying you can grill out, nothing illegal. Please keep in mind people and fans will be watching the competition, so don't be doing anything that's going to be disruptive to others. Are you aware that this can affect concessions making its money? We are aware, but some people will still use the concession stands, we'll still have concession stands going on. You can use them if you want to, or you can, do that. Will the big tent have walls? We will have walls if the weather requires it. So far, we looked at the almanac, and it says it's supposed to be nicer than it was last year, so we maybe won't be freezing as much, but nothing is over 8 by 8 by 8. Let's see, can we bring vehicles? We understand that true tailgating, involves vehicles, but we can't tear Northwest Shoals Community College's, stuff up. Can fundraising happen at the tent or the booth? Yes, you can. So you can sell items at your booth. Okay, no candy or food items can be sold. So you might have little knickknacks, or little artsy little stuff, or I don't know, just don't do food. Okay. Let's see, can we interact outside of the larger tent? Yes, and we actually recommend it. Interact with the other teams, get to know it. We almost had a marriage between two schools at one point. I don't even know if they're still together, but it was love. Or espionage, we're not real sure. Let's see, if 2 people are in the booth, do they stay all day or you can switch out? Like you said, it's better to switch out sometimes and do shifts. And if you're a morning person and you just, you don't wake up until 9 or 10 or 12, you might be the very first person everybody wants to see your face like, let's see, can we bring a generator? Best will provide generators, okay? Will there be room for a cheer squad? Inside the gym, you can use your pom-poms, but no stunts. Outside, you can do routines, but just do it away from the tents. Will the booth be lined up in the corner? What are the ages of the judges? Last year, they were 18 to 73, and I think we're about like that this year. In the event of bad weather, what do we do? Well, it says the tent has 100-foot tent walls. If it's bad weather, the walls will go down. Or the tent. I'm just kidding. Okay, and then of course the costumes and the mascots. Can we bring team food for the tailgating? Yes, and your drinks and everything else, but you cannot sell the food, okay? And can the judges ask tailgating questions? Yeah, we can do what we want to do. We're judges. No, I'm just kidding. Are the guideline changes with the videos? No, it's still that same thing, that 90 seconds. Will the quantity of the team members and fans going to reduce? No. If you only have 10 people there and those are 10 people screaming their head off, they're just as good at running as anybody else. Will there be a limit to how much power is available in the tent? Lord, we're not doing hair. We are just doing this job, okay? But now, if you have a popcorn machine, you need to bring something to plug it in. That's going to be on you on that. Make sure you have your little air card or your hotspot for your internet access. And all this information is received in your best binders, your packets, and Stephanie takes all of the questions that are not the technical robotics part. Greg is the one that if there's a robot issue or anything like that. So, and then the Spirit and Sportsman team bank points, you'll actually get, she's going to actually inundate you with your emails. Make sure you're checking your best website, the little Q&A, make sure you're checking that regularly because there will be questions that come up that we might, it says we're going to start at 9 on the actual judging. Last year we started at 10, probably because it was Halloween night, the night before. Let's see. And then Stephanie's going to tell you all about Mall Day. And how do you get students on the cheer squad, or how do you get people to come to you? A lot of people told us that they went to their Friday night football games and saw some of their friends that happened to be, some of you do sports and other activities and this. So you're already there, so you might want to say, hey, you're not involved in it, come help us out in our best group. When can you take down your booth? Wait for the all clear. And usually that'll be from me or from Stephanie where we say all clear before you start taking down your booth that day, because we have had people that did that. And then the TVs will be outside. Any questions? Yes?
Are the judges still going to watch us everywhere?
I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. Y'all are trying to get me on video for that. We do watch you. What happened is, for those of you that have never seen, we end up, the judges go to the same, we go to the same break rooms that y'all go to. We go to the same restrooms y'all go to. We go to the same, areas. So you're going to actually see judges everywhere. So we can actually watch and see, and that's how we saw some of the mascots and costumes last year, because one of the people that really thought that they should win was fighting with someone else. And the judges were watching them, and they had no idea that happened to be at the time that they were watching. So It does happen, and we are able to stop and ask you a question. And we may ask a question from another group too. We may say to you, "Hey, Creekside, how's Brooks doing this year? What are you thinking?" You know, now if you look at us and say, "They're not competition," we know that was not very good spirit and sportsmanship. But you may say, "Hey, they've been great help for us," or, "You know, I haven't had the opportunity to work with them this year," or whatever, you know. So, you know, don't sabotage each other like that or anything like that. I know that the longer we go and the more groups we have, the more the competition becomes a little bit, you know, dicey. You know, I know how that is. And it does, but you're still learning, because some of you may work in the same work building later on in life. You know, you might not think so, but, you know, you never know. Any other questions? They're going to be like, they so thought I was going to be the one that was going to go over tonight at 6:30. Ha ha ha. Okay. Now, let's see if I can quiz you a minute. What are the height, length, and width of the team exhibits?
8 by 8.
How will we find out if it's 8 by 8 by 8? All right. Very good. Okay. We don't answer those questions. I'm sorry. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know where. All right, let's see. What can I use for team wear? T-shirts or pants or pants? Yeah. You could wear swimsuits, but let's not do that. That'd be a whole new robotics competition. All right, let's see. What is the difference, please, somebody get this right. What is the difference between the costume and the mascot? And I'm going to ask you because you looked confused earlier, but okay.
The costume has to do with your marketing technique or whatever, and the mascot promotes spirit. And
My work here is done. Have a great night, guys.
You did good with that, 'cause